Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the Kordial Media YouTube channel. My name is Adriana and I help Shopify e-commerce businesses and influencers drive traffic and sales utilizing Pinterest. In today's video, I'm going to do a Q&A answering your questions that you guys leave in the comment boxes of my videos. And so it's going to be super interactive. Hopefully also it'll help shed some light on some commonly asked questions. If any of these questions also trigger other questions on your behalf, feel free to leave them in the comment box below. I will tally all of these up and put them in another video. This is actually part one of the Q&A. I'm also going to do a part two to this Q&A, which will be released next week. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button and to hit the bell to be notified every single time I post a new video here on the Kordial Media YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's dive into the questions. Question number one. Hi, do you suggest to run consideration or conversion campaign for retargeting? My Pinterest account is new, but my website has traffic for some time already. If your website is not new and you have quite a bit of traffic, I would say something like above 30 to 50,000 monthly page views at least, then you can likely go ahead and run a conversion campaign as opposed to consideration. Another way to decide whether or not you're gonna run a conversion or a consideration is to look at your conversion volume, your add to cart volume every day and your checkout volume every day. If you have an add to cart volume that it is around like 15 to 100 add to carts a day, then your campaign can optimize for add to carts as opposed to checkouts, because it's just a little bit easier for the algorithm to get you those sales if it's actually optimizing for add to carts if you have a lower volume of add to carts daily. But if you have less than 15 add to carts daily, I would really suggest you probably run a consideration campaign first before you dive into conversion, because the algorithm will find it really difficult to get you those conversions otherwise. Question number two. Hello dear, I'm having an issue. I have only add to cart option. Why checkout option is missing in my Pinterest account? Can you please help me? If you are only able to select the add to cart conversion event, it probably means that your checkout event code is not properly installed on your website. Or it could also mean that Pinterest hasn't recorded enough checkouts for your Pinterest account or your Pinterest ad account to kind of unlock the checkout conversion event. So either way, so I suggest you test out your tag and see whether or not your checkout event code is actually firing. And if it isn't, then you know that's the issue. And if it is, then you know that it's probably just the Pinterest account is just waiting to collect a few more checkouts before it lets you, use that as a conversion event. This we see more commonly with non-Shopify e-commerce businesses. If you are on a Shopify e-commerce business, then normally you should be able to see the checkout event code right away, or you should have the option to select checkout right away. And if you don't, it's probably something to do with the Pinterest integration that you set up on your Shopify. So those are two possibilities as to why you can't see checkout on your Pinterest account. And if the problem still persists, then I suggest you contact the Pinterest Help Center, or you contact the Pinterest rep associated with your ad account if you have the name of that person already. Question number three. Hi, great content. Thank you so much. I've been watching your videos and I have a question. Do you always use the automatic bidding? Is there any reason? Thanks. Automatic bidding, I went through a mini period of time where I was playing with custom bidding. And what I noticed is that in some countries that you advertise to, it ends up not spending at all your budget for your campaign. And then in other campaigns, it will spend pretty much your full budget, but just not all of it. So I noticed, for example, in Germany, it would spend maybe 80% of the daily budget and get you a better bid. But then in the US, when I would choose custom bid, it wouldn't spend the campaign budget at all. So long story short, yes, I usually choose automatic bidding 9 times out of 10, because if you're gonna choose a custom bid and it's not gonna spend your daily budget, then what's really the point in even running Pinterest ads at all? So it's just easier to use automatic bidding, to be honest. And if you see that your CPA is too high, your metrics are too high, there are ways to optimize in order to lower that price, or you can always test out new creatives and things like that to help lower the cost overall. But I do suggest you launch with automatic bidding first, and then maybe as you get more experience, you can play with custom bidding. Next question. Great content. How long do you wait before reviewing the ads performance? You mentioned a few weeks in the video, but a few weeks can mean 3 weeks or 5 weeks or anything in between. Thanks. Good question. So usually when I launch a campaign, there's a 14-day learning period, which means in that time, all I will maybe do is pause and replace a few creatives, definitely not all creatives, but that's about it. I will normally wait 14 full days before I optimize a campaign. So meaning before I remove interest in keywords or any other type of targeting. Quick tip, if you are wondering how to optimize your Pinterest campaigns, you can download my free guide in the description box below. It teaches you like different scenarios and what to do and how to optimize for each type of scenario. 14 days is usually the rule of thumb. Once the first 14 days of a brand new campaign has completely passed, I will then optimize every Monday and Thursday. So twice a week. And normally what I do is I'll optimize targeting on Monday and creatives on Thursday, or I will swap that. I rarely do twice where I'm optimizing targeting in the same week, or twice where I'm optimizing creatives in the same week, because like I said, Pinterest needs some time to learn after the optimizations, and I like to give it at least 7 days before I do something else. Ideally you give it 14, but really I usually give it 7 once the initial learning phase is passed. Next question. Thanks so much for all your helpful information. You're welcome. Can you tell me what CPC you should aim for on an initial consideration campaign? I've seen CPCs be as low as like a cent, or very, very low, 10 cents maybe. But I've also seen on a consideration campaign. So a consideration campaign usually has way cheaper CPC than a conversion campaign or a catalog campaign. And I think the reason why is because the consideration campaign is optimizing for clicks and traffic already. And so the algorithm knows that it has to drive as cheap clicks as possible. So what should you aim in terms of CPC for a consideration campaign? Anything under 50 cents, I would say, would be a good goal to attain. Although I will say that the CPC doesn't really matter if a creative is getting you ROAS and sales. That's my opinion though. Not everybody feels that way. Something to think about. If you're getting, really good conversions from one creative, but your CPC is a bit high, well, is it really worth turning off? I don't know. That's up to you to decide, obviously. But yeah, under 50 cents is probably a good CPC to aim for in a consideration campaign. Next question. Okay, after 2 to 3 weeks of running ads, what metrics do you read to know when to completely turn off a campaign? So many metrics. This is a really hard one to answer because I look at so many metrics, and honestly 2 to 3 weeks, unless you're a really seasoned brand and people know you and you have been running ads on other platforms for multiple years, and you have quite a strong brand awareness, a base, if you will, 2 to 3 weeks running ads on Pinterest is not nearly enough to judge whether or not a campaign is ready to be shut off, in my opinion and in my experience. A small Shopify store with very little traffic, very little traction to begin with will not even see any sales within the first 3 months probably of running Pinterest ads. So it kind of depends on what journey you are in terms of how mature your business is or your store is. Let's say you're an average store, you have average traffic, you're getting some traction from Facebook ads and Google ads, now you're trying Pinterest. Okay, fair enough. Let's say you launch 4 campaigns at the same time. After 2-3 weeks of running ads, what metrics do you look at to completely turn off a campaign? I would say if you're not really getting any add to carts after 3 weeks in 1 or 2 of your campaigns, maybe those would be worth shutting off. But really you need to give Pinterest ads at least a month before you see whether or not they're worth keeping. Again, if you need help optimizing, I do have that free guide that you can just download in the description box below. But okay, overall metrics that I like to look at consistently are CTR. I do look at CPC and CPA sometimes. I look at the volume of outbound clicks. But most importantly, in the metrics that I look at the most frequently, add to carts, the volume, and so the number of add to carts. And I also look at add to cart ROAS because it's an indication of when a checkout ROAS is coming. So I like to aim for a 10 add to cart ROAS because with around a 10, usually, this is not always the case, but usually I will see around a 2 checkout ROAS. So that's the next metric I look at is checkout ROAS as well as volume of checkouts, the amount of checkouts I'm seeing. And then I will look at checkout CPA and add to cart CPA, but it's not the metric I look at the most. Let me know if you want like a template download for your reporting. I do have a video that takes you on a tour of the Pinterest Ads Manager, and I break down which metrics I do like to look at. So I'll link that in the description box below if you're interested in watching that as well. Next question, why would you not use the same creatives across different ad groups when you have different interests in each ad group? That will allow you to know what resonates with what, or what do you think? The reason why we don't want to use duplicate creatives when we're advertising to the same country across different ad groups and campaigns is because Pinterest has a cap in how often it's going to show the same creative to your audience. You're shooting yourself in the foot by not showing your ads as much as possible because you're using the same creative across all campaigns or ad groups. If you want to test this out, maybe the first 7 days, just to see if there's one interest that resonates more than another, you can do that. But realistically, you can also just add in all your interests in one campaign and test 4 different creatives in that campaign and see which creatives will match with which interest the best as well. My advice to you is not to use duplicate creatives across all campaigns if you're advertising to the same location, really because of that cap. But otherwise, you can test duplicate creatives across different countries and different locations because there's no cap in that sense. So it's really based on the location and the cap, shooting yourself in the foot. I hope that was clear, and if it wasn't, then just write me a comment about it or question. Next question, Adriana, you said in your video you can test 4 different products in one of 4 ad groups. Can those products be from different niches? Have you tested this way before? Yes, it can be from different niches. You can test without any targeting. You can leave everything on all and like one location and not add any interesting keywords to your campaign and test 4 different products that way. That being said, if you're testing to the United States, the audience size is gonna be huge on your ads, almost too big, which we need a broad audience on Pinterest to launch ads, but not that big, not to the level of all of the United States. And so it could make it a little bit more difficult to actually see some traction because the algorithm will have absolutely no guidance as to who to show your products to. If you're advertising to a smaller country like Australia or Canada or Germany or France, even Brazil and Mexico, then you can go about it that way because then the audience size will be broad enough but also small enough to actually find the people who are interested in those certain products and to find your winning products out of those 4. For the United States, I mean, my advice to you would be to select a few interests if you can, and maybe to test like 4 different products that are in similar niches in one campaign, and then do another campaign with 4 other products that are in another similar niche. And like that, you can test a few interests as well and see whether or not there's a product that's sticking with your Pinterest audience more than another. Okay, well that actually wraps up part 1 of our Q&A. If you'd like an expert like myself to take a look at your Pinterest ads, feel free to book a meeting with me. My calendar is in the description box below. It's totally free. You and I hop on a call and we chat about your Pinterest account and your Pinterest ads, and we see if we're a good fit to work together. Stay tuned for part 2 of this Q&A next week. And on that note, I'm gonna wish you a lovely rest of your day. Bye for now.